So this conference is the result of a synergy between the International Commission for the Theory of History and Historiography and the Association of Historical Dialogue and Research here in Cyprus. The aim of this conference, of this 2 days conference, is to think about the role of history in the conflicting...
I think the microphone is not good.
No, that's better now?
Yes.
The aim is to think about the role of history in the conflicting culture in divided societies and the role of historians and social scientists play in these societies, in these circumstances. Years ago, we had a conference in Bochum, organized by Professor Stefan Berger, exploring the engagement and the responsibility of historians. Historians, in one way or the other, voluntary or involuntary, take role in constructing or deconstructing identities, in fueling animosities, or in the appeasement of conflicts, in stabilizing or challenging the already existing order of things. The historical engagement is something ascribed to them by their professional ethos or by their personal position, or depending on the case by the state or international agencies. But more than the personal or professional engagement and responsibility, this debate has to do with a deeper understanding of our collective relationship to the past. In a speech delivered in 2008, Barack Obama, talking about racial discrimination, said, "The past isn't dead and buried, in fact, isn't even past." He was paraphrasing the well-known aphorism by William Faulkner in his record, where now the past is never dead. It's not even past, like Mr. Adams. The use of this phrase by the US President displays the importance of the immediacy of the past in political commitment. In a similar way, in protest movements, slogans regarding history and the past rearrange the constellation of past, present, future. This is not a new story. Historical consciousness has always oscillated between two poles. The first is history as the attribution of justice. History is strictly connected with justice. Historical events are seen for centuries as awards or punishment of the human deeds. This moral approach to history is also the attitude that it is possible to correct history, that deeds of the present would correct injustice of the past, the possibility of return, or of erasing time between the past and the present. The connection of history to justice was the baseline of history before historiography, that is, before the secularization of history writing, and persists as a sense of history besides the mainstream conception of history even today. But the immediacy of the past for social justice is not the only case where the distance from the past has been erased. Similar phrases were used for denouncing the mentality of revenge and the sticking to old bad traditions. During the 90s, for example, in the civil wars in the ex-Yugoslavia, reporters were describing the revival of the old conflicts between Serbs and Bosnians, Croats or Kosovars with just the same words. The past here is not forgotten, it's never past. As a consequence, the revenge is still alive, and the one ethnic group is ready to shoot the other. This was also the initial meaning of the phrase when it was used by William Faulkner, that in the American South, the mentalities of the 19th century still persist. Let's think the case of the national conflicts and of the civil wars. What to advise the former enemies, or what to teach in divided societies? That the past is present or gone. That the past should be considered as belonging to a world which is the same, or to a world that has been changed. That their duty is to remember or to forget. To remember and revenge, to remember and forgive, or to forget and start a new life. To connect or to delete the past. There are two instances, two types of historical consciousness. The first regards history as apokatastasis, that is, as reconstitution, restitution, or restoration to the original condition. This is a history corresponding to the immediacy of the political action, the reactivation, revival, and politicization of the past. The second is the historicization of the past. The past belongs to the past. The mediation of the past by history. In relation to the past, the concept of the past itself are culturally constructed and hardly conform to a general pattern. Nevertheless, the discipline of historiography has been based on a canon of thinking the past since the 19th century, we say. The central concept of which was defined by distance and detachment. The past turns into the historical past when it is estranged from the present and when its familiarity was vanished. Generations of students of history learn that historizing means distancing from the past, and distancing means transforming the past into a historical past. Not to forget the past, but to elaborate the past and to turn it to a cultural, emotional, and political source for the present. In the place where the sense of the immediacy of the past leads to the endless repetition of enmities, Paul Ricoeur, the French philosopher, proposed the Freudian concept of the working through of the past. From this aspect, the concept of historical distance, of the historicity of the past, the concept of pastness is not a departure from a political engagement, but represent a kind of political proposal. In such circumstances, the old ways historicized by Frederick Jameson acquires a concrete meaning. To teach history doesn't imply to hinder or to silence traumas, but to display them, to talk on them, to analyze them from the perspective of the mutual understanding of the perpetrator and the victim, often in chasing positions. In numerous circumstances, both forms of historical consciousness face one the other, and this contrast is mediated by hybrid forms of thinking. For example, analogical thinking is a way of understanding new realities through history. Metaphors, resemblance, and analogies from the past domesticate the new situations. For example, we say in Greek, I became a Turk, έγινα Τούρκος. That means I became furious. Another example, the term barbarous, so common to our everyday talk, comes from the Greek antiquity, and the term fascism is common for authoritarian rules. Through language, literature, and culture, the past is re-evocated into the present, even in weak and less strong forms, and is used for understanding the future. The use of the past in everyday communication calls historians to deal not only with the text of history, the monuments and the historical feast, but to include them in the concept of historical culture. I use a kind of assemblage way of historical culture, saying that historical culture comprises material links or representations of the past, such as museums, archives, libraries, archaeological sites, books, films, schools, and institutes, anniversaries. Ways of historical thinking and reasoning encapsulated in concepts like tradition, identity, memory, national identity, historical consciousness, modernity, or in the conceptualization of historical time. Disciplines and ways of investigating the past, like excavation and landscape surveys, methods of historical research, memory studies, and oral history, judicial investigations about the past. Feelings about the past, such as vengeance and forgiveness, nostalgia and estrangement, defense and contempt, respect and desecration, feelings encapsulated in the artworks, in literature, cinema, theater, visual arts, emotions disseminated by mass media. And moral values related to the past as respect to the tradition, sense of justice, and so on. So, how to deal with all these forms comprised in the concept of historical culture? Since the last quarter of the past century, there was an acceleration of approaches which produce a rich repertoire of conceptual tools theories, and methodologies. There are two categories of these theories which correspond to different approaches. The first category refers to history as a system of science. I use that term later on about. As a cultural practice or as a structure of representing the past. The use of narrative as a universal form of representation is part of this conception of history. History epitomizes a range of relations to the past and represents the past itself. This is also the most common use of the term history in literature and philosophy. According to Michel de Certeau, history is a system at the general locus of society, not only a subject for academic research. In this view, both private and shared ways of negotiating the world are based on this system that, organized by means of histories, all social communication, and everything that makes the present habitable. That's words by Michel de Certeau. The works of Paul Ricoeur, Hayden White, and Frank Anthony and others, of course, belong to this type of theory of history as a language. Another category of theories refers to memory. What matters here is neither the system nor general rules of the relations to the past, but how subjects are memorized or forgotten, re-evoked or pushed back into the past. Through the theories of memory, there is a shift from the system to the subject, from the rules of play to the players. History and memory matter from the point of constituting such activities. Historical culture is the way, the form in which groups handle the raw material of their social and material existence according to patterns existing in a sort of historical reservoir. Both categories, the first and the second, correspond more or less to the distinction made by the structural linguistic between langue and parole. Langue is the system and the rules of the language. Parole is the use of the language by the speakers. But structural linguistics also comprise phoneme and morpheme. What is their equivalent in historical culture? Claude Lévi-Strauss, transporting the linguistic analysis of Saussure to social anthropology, coined the term mythen, a term for the minimal unit of the myth. The question is whether we could use a concept of units which refer to historical culture. These units shouldn't be confounded with historical information, but with ways of comprising historical information and interpretation together. An example is the image of Hitler as the personification of the ugly. This idea, image, symbol has been used in several cases, for example, for depicting Milosevic, Saddam Hussein, Assad, Putin, and numerous other bad guys in the post-war era. Fascism is another nucleus idea connecting what we consider as dreadful politics with sad and hated historical memories. There are numerous such examples which refer to every aspect of our life, connected past and present. There are units which refer to words as metaphors, like barbaric, Gothic, classical, Byzantine, Latin. Units which refer to ways of thought, analogical thought, conspiracy, personification of causes. Units which attribute certain categories to collectivities, for example, nation, Westerners, Europeans, moderns, etc. What do these units have in common? They circulate, they are transmitted and shared, they adapt and transform themselves according to their environment, and they come together with other units to form bigger narratives and attitudes. Historical information is transported through these units. They transfer facts and feelings, form complex structures, and exchange information and attitudes from one narrative to the other, from one ideology to the other, from one language to the other. Another big example is nationalism. It is characterized by a multitude of such units which migrate from one nationalism to the other, replicating themselves in the process. Here we need a bridge between structuralism and biological evolution, and I explain why. Richard Dawkins, the writer of a very influential book, The Selfish Zen, coined the term mem, which is the equivalent of the Zen for cultural systems. According to him, examples of mems are tunes, ideas, catchphrases, clothes fashions, ways of making pots or of building art, just as Zen propagate themselves in the Zen pool by leaping from body to body via sperms or eggs, so mems propagate themselves in the mem pool by leaping from brain to brain via a process which, in the broad sense, can be called imitation. Mems should be regarded as living structure, not just metaphorically, but technically. Here is where I'd like to arrive. In divided societies and in divided cultures, the more decisive and unpredictable factor producing sudden eruptions and sudden riots, and bloody riots, I would say, are often insignificant events, rumors, or minimal causes. So we have to deal and understand how contingency is working in these upward situations. We should pay attention to the multitude of cultural bits and bytes and to mimetic process which form historical culture. These processes speed up or slow down the migration of mems, and that depends on the historical conditions societies are living in. An historical crisis can break up consensus about the past and open graves to allow historical minds contaminate present conflicts. Contemporary entities acquire historical dimension by attracting memes regarding the past. Recognizing the vagueness and the shapelessness of the field, the need is to draw paths for mapping it. Historical culture is not at the margin of history. We experience history through historical culture, and we obtain a variety of experience of the past. I hope this conference is becoming a laboratory of mapping historical culture in divided societies and insinuating ways out, possibilities of paths of cooperation, peaceful coexistence, and cooperation between communities. First of all, I'd like to thank the Home of Cooperation for hosting this conference, the colleagues from the Commission of History and Historiography coming here, and particularly Daphne Lava for her efforts for the successful organization of this event. I wish you goodbye. Thank you.